Trigger warning. Today we are discussing triggers, not the type on a gun, the type in your heart. The type where we get emotionally reactive, our body starts feeling weird, we kind of lose ourselves in our reaction, and we become beholden to the stimuli that got us. And our triggers are reflections of the past. We bring the past into the present when we react the same old way. In today's video, we're going to be exploring a powerful sequence of responses that's going to have you generate freedom from your emotional triggers. So definitely stick around. I like to think of the moment I'm getting triggered, if I can slow it down, I'm starting to get triggered. That moment is a junction point in my evolution. There's a fork in the road. I can react. I can fully allow the triggering effect to permeate. I can react and thereby perpetuate the past and bring that way of being into the present, reinforcing the way it's always been. Or I can bring new, fresh, emerging awareness to myself and my environment in that moment, such that new ways of being are possible and new possibilities emerge. When I bring fresh awareness to an old circumstance, trigger, or event, then I open the Rolodex of possibilities before me. Awareness is the precursor to new ways of being and new action. So let's dive into an acronym that you can use that will really support you stepping into what's possible versus what is past when you personally reach that fork in the road. So the acronym that you can receive here, perhaps you'd like to write it down, is notice, breathe, inquire, act. Notice, breathe, inquire, and take action. Notice is for N, breathe is for B, inquire is I, and act is A. Notice, breathe, inquire, act. N, B, I, A. Very close to the NBA, but there's an I in there. Whoever said there was no I in NBA obviously did not watch this video. I digress. In that moment of being triggered, the first and foundational step is the noticing. It's the awareness that we're bringing to ourselves and our environment in that moment of reactivity. So if we don't notice ourselves being triggered, then we are not empowered to show up any differently. So the first step is to notice what's occurring. Bring awareness into your inner space. How is your body feeling? What's coming up for you emotionally? Become very present to your own presence in that moment. And instead of being the one who is reacting, my invitation is that you identify with the one who is observing, the one who is watching, that deeper part of you that's not time and space bound, so it's able to be a witness to the emerging reaction rather than playing the game of the reaction. So noticing asks us to take a step back and become consciousness itself, so we're observing the response rather than being the response or clinging to the response or identifying with the response. So rather than being the response, you are the space in which responses play out. You, my friend, are bigger than any particular response. You are the space of possibility from which your mind and body play out responses. So the more awareness you can generate in your field, the more empowered you'll be to respond in a way that is not bound by the limitations of the trigger. Because when a trigger appears, it's saying, you react this way when I show up. This situation occurs, this person says that. The trigger is you're triggered to react the same old way. So awareness neutralizes the intensity of that reactivity and creates more space. There's more playing field to experience that moment, that fork in the road differently. So noticing is the first step. The second step is to breathe. And this is an invitation to move your awareness into your inner space. Conscious, connected breathing allows you to ground into the present and healthily disassociate from the energy, the momentum of the reaction. So junction point is approaching, you start to become reactive, you notice it, there's awareness present, and now my invitation to you as a second step is to draw your consciousness, the flow of your consciousness, what Sanskrit called soma, S-O-M-A, send the flow of your consciousness into your body and into your breath. If you can connect your mind to your body using your breath as a bridge, that's going to really empower you to stand independently from the reaction and not fall into the quicksand of it. There are lots of different ways in which you can approach mindful breathing. If you'd like to check out one of my other videos, I go into some of those techniques. You're also welcome to reach out to me personally, and I will be happy to offer you some instruction. Breathing is always occurring in the present. So when we connect consciousness to our experience of breath, presence itself starts to become dominant. When we're reactive, the past is dominant. The future is dominant. These elements that we're bringing into the present moment are the priority when we're triggered. So when we prioritize breathing and body awareness, that's our BB, breathing and body awareness, we begin to neutralize the trigger, ground into the present, and empower ourselves to show up differently and choose differently. So first we notice, then we breathe and practice body awareness. And then from this newfound space that we're leaning into the present, and we're leaving the residual energy of the past behind. As we ground ourselves into the present, now we're in a position to practice self-inquiry. Self-inquiry is our I. Yes, I. Inquire within. Notice, breathe, and now we are in a position to engage in self-talk. And this can show up in many different ways. I'm noticing that I'm feeling upset right now. I'm noticing, this is theoretical, I'm not really feeling upset right now. It would be okay if I was, but I'm not. So, how am I feeling right now? What does my body feel like? Where in my body can I move more oxygen and awareness and self-love? What action is available to me? What's a way that I can respond in this moment that feels authentic for me? So asking yourself a question connects you to yourself. It's like you're the parent tending to your inner child. What do you need? What do I need in this moment? How can I serve myself in this moment? How can I show up with authenticity and alignment for myself despite what is being delivered to me circumstantially? How can I serve me best in this moment? Come up with some high quality self-inquiry questions and be in the practice of silently, perhaps verbally, but also silently and gently asking yourself high quality questions that position you in a powerful way and set you up for success. So how am I feeling in this moment? What can I do to serve me? What options are available to me? How can I be of service to this person that's triggering me? Different moments and people and situations will call up different things from you. But be in that practice of inquiry and see how you can care and tend for yourself as you're on the precipice of that junction point. Lastly, the fourth element, we have notice, we have breathe, we have inquire, and now we are fully optimized to take action. We've noticed it, we've breathed into our body, our awareness has gone inward, we've asked ourselves what we truly need, and now after those three steps, an action or a non-action, which is also an action, becomes available. What action, there's another good inquiry. What action serves me best in this moment? And now the fourth step is to take that action. I was just working with a coaching client and she was talking about how she gets really triggered when her dog starts going off in her apartment. The dog starts yapping, starts freaking out. They're in their enclosed space. It becomes very loud and disturbing, and it's very triggering for her. So an action step that we came up with, and perhaps it seems obvious, but to build awareness around this outside of the trigger and then to be able to bring that into the next trigger is really powerful. So what we connected on is that a lateral action step, when that comes up, is for her to simply remove herself from her apartment. In many cases, she had taken different approaches. She tried to fight it out. She yelled at her dog. She tried to ignore it. She did all sorts of things that weren't proving to really serve her. And so we concluded that in some cases, what might really serve her best is to completely remove herself from the apartment. Take an action in the name of self-love and self-awareness and get out of that space. In some situations, you might feel called to move into the trigger. And in this situation, what felt best for her was to take action to remove herself from the trigger. So action can show up 10,000 different ways according to the situation. But once we have awareness, once we've breathed into ourselves, once we've asked ourselves what's most needed right now, then we've laid the foundation for the best, most aligned action in that moment that is going to be a reflection of us prioritizing ourselves. A trigger moment is really an opportunity for self-awareness and self-love. We need ourselves in that moment. We need our own inner parent. We need our own higher self to step up and lead the charge. We can be a prisoner of the past, or we can be a pioneer of the future. Do you want triggers or possibilities to be the guiding principle of your life? What that requires, if it's possibilities, is to bring this fresh awareness into these moments and begin to consciously practice showing up in a new way when we're tempted to react in the same old way. Now, this acronym is a real-time tool. What's also really valuable are the practices you are engaging in on a daily basis that are not they're not responses in the moment. They're tools and practices that are foundational that you're practicing with consistency. And the reason those foundational tools are so valuable is because when we practice in those other moments, we begin to organically and spontaneously show up in new and fresh and desirable ways in the moments where life's actually happening. So we do the work over here to show up differently over here. So we have our foundational tools and our real-time tools. Both are immensely valuable, and both are going to fan the flame of your evolution. But for the sake of today's video, you have notice, you have breathe, you have inquire, and you have act. Practice these 4 steps when you get to that fork in the road and begin to step into your new and emerging awareness. Consciousness wants you to evolve. It supports your evolution. And what it requires is that we actively participate in this flow that already wants to move forward. Well, that is all for today. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate. It's been an honor and a privilege. I very much appreciate you taking the time and energy to be here today, and I will see you so soon. My name is Matthew Spangler of The Meditation Effect, and you create a beautiful day. Namaste.